Welcome to the Data Architecture Elevator podcast. Created by Agile Lab, we will explore the dynamic intersection of technology, innovation, and practices in the data space. Our company purpose is to elevate the data management game of companies that want to be data-driven, and this is the goal of this podcast too. For more information and insights, visit our website at www.agilelab.it and feel free to reach out our architects on LinkedIn with your question. Now let's step into the elevator with Agile Lab data architects. Welcome to the ninth data architecture elevator. Finally, we are here in presence in our Turin office. Unfortunately, Antonino is sick at home, but we can anyway deep dive in the topic of today that is very hot one. We are going to talk about Agentic AI and MCP. So because we are in this kind of context, we are going to ask to ChatGPT what is this MCP. So what is it MCP by Anthropic?
MCP by Anthropic stands for Model Customization Platform. It's a service that lets you customize their AI models to better fit your needs. You can fine-tune models with your own data, making them more effective for specific tasks or industries.
Perfect. So as you can see, it's totally inventing the definition. So maybe better to rely on Antonino for this.
Yeah, I think we heard the classical example of AI slop when AI makes up stuff. But to go back to your question, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, actually, by Anthropic, and is a standard for communication between LLM-driven applications and the external world, so other systems. Basically, in this kind of applications that are generically called agentic application, agentic systems, the LLM, the core model that drives the flow of the application, interacts with the external world through calling functions, also called tools. And the way this connection is made is custom every time. So if you need to access one system, you have to integrate that system into your application. And the same for system 2, system 3. Instead, with the model context protocol, the protocol part is standardized. So when your application supports the MCP protocol, can talk automatically with all the other systems that expose their interface through the same protocol.
So is a protocol, is a server. What you have to do if you want to make your application MCP ready?
So actually, one common metaphor is saying comparing MCP to the USB port. So in the USB port, you have the driver in your computer, and then you have the peripherals that talk to your computer. And here is similar. So your application needs to have an MCP client to talk to all the other system, and one system that wants to expose some functionality needs to have an MCP server. So it's a server client communication.
Okay, so basically each server is advertising what kind of capabilities and functions are available for the client, so for the agent. And then the agent can invoke these endpoints in order to do operation, retrieve information, or whatever. Okay, so it means that every application, if you want to make it compatible with this protocol, you need to implement a server exposing those endpoints, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and the interesting part is that discovery that you mentioned before. So one functionality standardized by MCP is this discovery. So the listing of the tools is done in one endpoint. The data returned by this endpoint is the set of tools with the proper description in a way that the LLM can understand, because these descriptions are important for the LLM to comprehend whether a tool is suitable for some task. So then it will be the client application that decides whether to call one of the available tools or not.
This is why on LinkedIn, Medium, I'm bombarded by news saying, okay, Figma now support MCP, now Office support MCP. Everybody support MCP because those companies and applications are implementing their own server to be interoperable. Okay, the interoperability has been also a huge topic in data mesh and data product world. Because interoperability is about decentralization. Every time you need to have decentralization, you need to have interoperability. So in which way MCP and data product can stay in the same room, can play the same game? Do you see any way to apply this pattern to data products?
Well, there are actually many ways. The most obvious one would be to expose data as tools. And here the topic is quite huge because there are many ways of doing that, ranging from very specific use case where you offer a tool that can solve a very specific problem, or tools that are a lot more generic and end up describing the data inside the data product and describing the way it can be accessed. So to make a parallelism with the HTTP world, let's say, and services world, we are at the two sides of the spectrum. One is the very specific functionality is a lot like RESTful APIs, where you code a specific need. While on the other end of the spectrum, we have, okay, I give you a schema and some information and some metadata about it, and you can do whatever you want. And that is a lot like GraphQL. You have that kind of capability.
Okay, so do you see a data product exposing an MCP endpoint in some way to make the data of the data product available for the agent? And this makes a lot of sense because a data product in the end is an application. You want to make the application interoperable with agents, with an agent ecosystem. You need to expose this kind of protocol, right?
Yeah. Also, well, we can range to other functionalities of the data product. So not only output ports, and well, we can go over and ask different things, because the good thing about the data product is that it's not only data. Also, observability and control ports might be used and exposed as tools of the same MCP server or different MCP servers. That is a technical detail that well, it's too early to decide if you want to split or not, because anyway, an MCP server can expose many tools, so there is no limitation in that direction.
Nice. So also for observability, an agent could leverage an MCP endpoint exposing observability information to decide if the agent can leverage or not the data in a specific moment. Is this part of the agency?
Yeah, I think that up until now we have used observability ports as semaphores. So is data good or is not good? But and programs usually just check that, is it fresh enough? And enough was a threshold, like it's 1 hour fresh, 1 day fresh, or whatever. Now agents are smarter than a threshold, so they can use their agency to actually decide what's the kind of freshness or quality of the data they want to obtain, given their goal, given their task. So now I guess observability port kind of make even more sense than before, if you allow agents to query them, to know the status of your product or your mesh, and take decisions about querying or not, or generating or not a report, because in some cases we are just talking about that.
Another interesting thing is popping in my mind is we have seen along the past 5 years problem of being able to specify this output port, observability port, control, and there's no standard de facto to describe this. So MCP as well is not defining the content of the endpoint, it's just defining the protocol, so the way the agent and the data product could exchange information, but is not prescriptive in the kind of information that you will put into the endpoint. Is it right? Or not?
Yeah, it's completely generic. You don't have any prescription. You just have the protocol, so you can only do client server, and the initiative must always be from the client, so the agent, the LLM usually. But that's it. Then tools can do whatever they want. They can expose whatever information, and that can be in many different formats. So the underlying format will be JSON because that's it. But inside you can have natural language or again structured data, what you need and what the LLM can actually understand.
So if you had already defined your data product specification to describe output port and observability and whatever, you can reuse the specification itself, but changing the protocol to make it available for the agents. Another interesting concept is about control port. Control port are those API that allow the external world to interact with a data product, pushing commands to the data product, typically for operation purposes. How do you see in this space MCP, and what could be, maybe Antonino, what could be a field of application to leverage control port from an agent standpoint?
Even for the control port, the situation is similar. So as the data products expose any functionality with an MCP server for reading output ports, for reading observability ports, it can expose also functionality to make actions through the control port. So to send commands through the control port. Of course, this in the classical framework of data mesh, data product, the control port is used by the owner of the data product. It's not used by random people around the company. So the same owner could leverage an agent to automate some tasks that are needed for the operation, for the maintenance of the data product. So it will simplify the management and the life cycle management of the data product, basically, and automating some operations that may be routine, and they can have also some discretionality. So sometimes you take actions depending on what happens, and instead of hard coding entirely this in some specific logic, you can give some more flexible instructions and have the agent automate it.
So to make a concrete example, we can say, okay, if you have a data product owner agent, this agent could have agency in deciding when a data product need a restart, maybe is broken or something is stuck, and you need to restart the scheduling of the data product, or when is a good moment to take a backup or do the data deletion for GDPR. So all these operations could be triggered and decided by the agent itself, removing a lot of cognitive load and effort from the data product owner or the data product team. Is this the scenario that we can foresee?
Yeah, that's definitely the scenario, and but I would say that if you can find some simple logic to govern this, then it's better that you implement it as a deterministic logic. You don't have to use agent for for everything when you don't need it. But in case there is some complexity in interpreting instructions or in using different tools in different ways, then you can leverage the agent to automate something that otherwise should be carried out by a person.
Perfect. So we have seen how basically all the external interfaces of a data product that basically have been conceived to provide interoperability at large scale, then they could become very useful for automation and to include agents and connect agents with the data that they need to achieve their goal. And MCP could be a cornerstone in this connection between AI and data inside a large enterprise where interoperability and standardization are strictly needed. Okay, thank you so much. It was very insightful conversation. See you the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.